toastmasters.org. It'll tell you to log in, and because it's not my computer, I actually have to enter in the password. Yes, there we go. As you can see, I'm logged in. Welcome, Kenji. And I got it right the first time. That doesn't always happen. There is a forgot password button if you've forgotten, but it would be kind of unfortunate in this case because it would have to go to my email, which is not on that computer, which I don't remember the password for. So it's a good thing I remembered this password. So on here, there's actually a lot of great resources. If you haven't checked this out, then I encourage you to do so, because even before you become an official member of a chartered club, there's a lot of things you can access, things about what Toastmasters is, about how they're structured. You have resources, public speaking tips, different Toastmasters branding, videos, more information on membership, and different education resources, and the Toastmasters magazine. If you're, the only thing about being a member is you get the subscription to the print version, and you can actually access the September version. That you can only access one of the issues if you're not logged in as a member. But back to Pathways. So they've conveniently given us a whole bunch of links that do pretty much the same thing. They all take you to that Pathways start page that you will get to from your welcome email. So I've been clicking on this one most of the time. I'm going to click on Choose a Path, because I think it'll take you to the exact same page. Yes, it does. This is the Pathway start page, and as you can see on your handout, this is one you'll be coming back to a few times. I've structured this so that you can see the main steps of getting into Pathways, getting to your projects, and going through them, and getting evaluations, because these are the things you'll be doing day in and day out in your meetings. The thing about Pathways is that there's a lot of great content in there. A lot of tips, tricks, resources, different educational material to build different speaking skills, different leadership skills, adapting to your style, and because it's online, it can really be personalized. So there's a lot of self-assessments, there's quizzes, and all that's to be more interactive and to get you engaged in the content that will help you prepare your speeches and together improve your public speaking and leadership skills. So the content's great. What I've been getting, the feedback that most people have gotten is that the navigation isn't perfect. It's not great, to be honest. And there's a few different roadblocks we may call hidden intersections, speed bumps. Pick a term and I'll show you how to get around some of those so you can get to the Pathways content much more easily. So the first one is the start page. You always start from this start page. If you haven't picked a path yet, which I guess most of you haven't, you go click continue to path selection. You have to do that before you get on to Pathways. Now, it does say $20 here. That's because I've already picked a path. Your first path is included in your membership dues. So if this was my first path, this would say free for the online version. There is a print version, which has a $25 materials fee. So if I was starting from scratch, it would say 0 and 25. The thing about the print version is that it's not as customizable. It doesn't have the interactive contents. It'll have all the projects, but you don't get to choose the electives, and only a few paths are available. So most people pick the online version. The print one's really only for people who don't have regular internet access. And from here you can click Take Your Assessment. And that's how you get the Pathways assessment. I'll go through it a few parts quickly, but not the whole thing. There is an option to skip it. Not really recommended because it does help get the right, choose a path, and you might be surprised by the results because it really does try to determine what you want to get out of the Toastmasters program. As you can see in the little writing on your handout and in some of the guest materials, there are 10 paths. You look at the top right. And I'll go through them a bit in a minute, but basically they all focus on a different aspect of communication and leadership. They focus on different parts of the 5 core competencies of Toastmasters: public speaking, interpersonal communication, strategic leadership, management, and confidence. And you get different combinations of those in different paths, and it all depends on what your skills you're trying to build, whether you want to be a better speaker, a better person in conversations, a better leader, a better manager, etc. And that's another great thing about Pathways, is that you can do many different things with your Toastmasters education. So I'll just click Start Assessment so you can get a bit of an idea. So it says, yeah, list some things you're interested in learning about. I don't have time to go through the whole thing, but I'll just show you the first questions, and then it asks you to narrow it down a bit more. Let's see if I can click that. Now, if you click Skip Assessment, it's the same as going. It's almost the same as going to the end. There is one difference, and that is, if you go through the assessment, it will say recommended path over one of them, and I have two others that are also suggested. Now, that doesn't mean you're limited to those. Whether you go through the assessment or not, no matter what it picks for you, there's always an option to choose additional paths, and you can choose from all of these. And again, there's resources online. I would even just Google Toastmasters pathways. You can read up right now on what each of the 10 pathways are and start thinking about which one you want to choose. So there's 10 right now, and there are more in development. So once you're done your first path, there might be even more to choose from. And once you're done that, you would go back to Access Path. See, I clicked a different button, you get to the same place. People were having trouble finding this page, so the Toastmasters International made it dead obvious how to get here. So that's step one on the handout here. You've chosen your path, you've chosen print or online manuals, and you've been recommended one and you've chosen it. Next step is to get onto Basecamp, and that's where all of the online content is. So you go to this pathway start page, choose if you're a member of more than one club, you can choose it here, and then you go log in as a member. And again, for the few of us who are members of other clubs, you can do this right now. Oh, that's right. Good reminder, this happens when you're on a new computer. Disable your pop-up blocker, and only for this site. So what you can do here, actually, Chrome makes it really easy. And it's only for this site, so you're not allowing pop-ups for everything, only from, not even Toastmasters.org, it's the Toastmasters.csod.com, which is where Pathways is. So only on this domain will pop-ups now be allowed, and that's because the projects come up in pop-ups. So I'll take you there right now. Normally it will appear here, it doesn't for reasons because I have too many other things open, but the main place you'll be going to access your projects is called My Education Transcript. Again, maybe not the most obvious name, but one of those things you just sort of commit to memory and you'll know to come back here because you use it so often. Education Transcript. Look for the path you chose. In my case, I chose Motivational Strategies. Another navigation item, if you click on here, you don't get to the path. If you click on here, you get to the path. And sometimes it might have to say activate or request first. If it just changes title, click it again, and you will get to your path. As you can see, I'm on level 2. Each path is structured such that it has 5 levels, and each level consists of about 3 projects. So you can see level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they get progressively more intensive and challenging. Level 1 is the same for everyone. You have an icebreaker, you have your evaluation feedback, which is actually 2 speeches and an evaluation rule, and researching and presenting, which is another speech based on research that you've done. So after those 4 speeches, you get your level 1 certificate. Well, you can request your level 1 certificate and then you can view it. So you get something that looks a little bit like this. Kenji Ferguson, congratulations for achieving level 1 of Motivational Strategies. Toastmasters, as much as it's about speaking and development, recognition is a big part of that as well. So whenever you get a reward or complete an achievement, you'll get a certificate, you'll get a badge for that. And so the first thing you will want to do when you get on here is actually open your icebreaker speech. And the presentations are all fairly similar. Actually, I can't show you this now because I'm not on level 3 yet. But I'll just show you a speech so you know what they look like. And it does, there we go. It's opened in a pop-up as it said it would. Another thing, these buttons don't always say the right thing the first time. You have to activate it or request it from somewhere before you can launch it. And I think that's just because of the way the online system is set up. But once you've requested it, you can just launch it again whenever you want. Even if you've completed the level, you can go back, like I'm doing right now, and look at previous projects. So the icebreaker, as you've probably heard a few icebreakers here, and there's some official guidelines that go along with it, starting with this project. Very introductory. As you notice, when it starts out, it's actually too small. You can't get all the navigation controls. Don't know why it does that. Something about being adaptable to screen, treating all screen sizes equally. So on every screen size, unless you're on a tablet, you have to click there or use those arrows to make the screen bigger. Once you're in the project, the first few give you navigation instructions like that. After that, they assume you know what you're doing. So things like returning to the project, these aren't the real buttons, these are the real buttons. And yes, so it starts like this. You begin, you get told what the navigations are. Some screens have things inside them that are interactive. So it's not always just click, click, click the same button. Some people like that kind of variety. And you can go back to this, there'll be a button down here you can go to and get more of that. So you can click here. Introduction goes through a bit of content. This one's not, to be honest, the most exciting. I mean, it's an icebreaker. It's meant for people who are just starting out. And it says just give a 4 to 6 minute speech, introduce yourself. This is what speech structure looks like, and here's some words of encouragement. But it's there to get you more knowledgeable about the system, similar to how this speech is supposed to work. Show you what the pathway system looks like, how to get around, and how to move forward with it. So you look there, you go here. As you can see, you get more directions. There are attachments here you can print out. Very importantly, that also includes your evaluation resource. So you can click through here, you go through here. There's, as you can see, I've already answered these, but it's a self-assessment. You do one at the beginning and you do one at the end. Now, after you go through a bunch of content, you get to something called not to complete your assignment. This is the second last one before you give your speech. You might want to click on the project checklist because it gives you a lot of great stuff in terms of what you should have done in order to present your speech. So you've scheduled your speech, you've written your speech, you've rehearsed your speech. If you're me, maybe you improvise your speech. And after you've completed it, that's an important one. I'll come back to that later because that's after you've done your speech. So you can go back to the new window where you have your assignment. This is the one. Once you get to this screen, this is where you print your evaluation resource and you give your speech at the club. And by this point, you may have already scheduled it with your VP of Education. So you can actually get, with this button, you get the whole project as a PDF. So if you want to see what the manual print version looks like, this is what it looks like. It's also available as a PDF. It's a whole 23-page booklet, basically, with all the same content that you would have had in the Pathways module. And you can also get your evaluation resource. So for most of our evaluations, you've probably seen them be fairly free form without a book or a sheet of paper telling you what the criteria are. With Pathways, that's different because with Pathways, we want the evaluations to be fairly standardized. We want people to be evaluating on the same criteria, so that an evaluation from one person to the next still gives you the information you need to learn and develop your future speeches. So in this case, it has a purpose statement, notes for the evaluator, some general comments, and different criteria. Now, these are fairly standard ones. Some projects will have different criteria. Some will have, like, how well researched is it, or how well put together are the sentences, that kind of thing. And you can comment on it, and you can give a rating out of 5. Better still, the third page actually tells you what each of those criteria mean. So the exemplary speaker excels, it's understood, somewhat unclear, or not easily understood. And you can use those as specific feedback you can take back and find things you want to emphasize, your strengths, or things you want to improve for your next speech. And that's all done during the formal spoken evaluation, which in this meeting we'll get to very soon. Because as you can see, Pathways will slot right into the regular meeting schedule. The meetings will run exactly the same. It's just the speeches we do will have more defined objectives, and we'll be working on, based on the content in this Pathways education program. If you can see so far, it's still quite open-ended. Being an icebreaker doesn't limit you too much to what you can see. You've probably seen, and for those of us who've been to many of the club meetings, you'll have seen that. Icebreakers on one style of icebreaker, another style of icebreaker, whether it's more factual, more open-ended, whether it's talking about a large part of your life or just a very little bit of it. That's just one example of how you could take a simple purpose statement or speech objective and go in many, many different directions for it. So there's a lot of freedom waiting for you in terms of what speeches you can go. And it really is just a stepping stone, another boost to help you get the most out of the speeches that you make. So there's your evaluation resource. So at this point, you've done that, you've done your speech, you've gotten your evaluation back, your evaluator's given it back to you. Don't forget to come back to this. That's another thing that people tend to do. You just give your speech and think, oh, I'm done. In order to complete the project on Basecamp, what you need to do is go to the next page, assess your skills after. There's an assessment, as you can see, I've already done it. The idea is that you see, hopefully afterwards, your understanding is higher than it was before. And then you go to what I call the congratulations screen. And it's always these two people clapping saying, yay, you did your speech. But it is really worth celebrating, especially your icebreaker, because it takes a lot to go from not having spoken in front of a group to suddenly speaking in front of a large group like this. But each time you do your speech, you've done something different. You've hopefully grown or at least learned something new along the way. So it is an achievement, and this congratulations that you get at the end of each project is well deserved. And you would then just close this. You'd go back to your education transcript, and there wouldn't have been a check mark before. Now there is one. And the icebreaker is a bit different in that it means you can't get to the rest of the path without it, but the other ones you can do in any order. So you get check mark, these become available. Do this one, check mark, do this one, check mark. You can get level 1, check mark, and then you can access level 2. And the projects just get more exciting from there. Things like understanding your communication style, introduction to how mentoring works in Toastmasters. I have one more to do, and then this one will be complete. So that's, again, basically 3 speeches and I'm done, 3 more speeches and I'm done level 2. Level 3 gets even more interesting because there's electives. So there's one mandatory one, emotional intelligence. How many of you want to learn about emotional intelligence? Some of you, but that's why there's more than one path. Motivational strategies kind of depends on emotional intelligence. Some paths, not so much. That's why there's choice. And you click the view details here once you get to level 3. There's a whole bunch of other ones. Storytelling, social speeches, visual aids, descriptive language. If you want to work on something, there's probably a tutorial for it in here somewhere. And that brings me to the next portion of this pathways, because you get to level 4 and level 5, and it's fairly similar. There's electives. How do you access the evaluation resources if you're the evaluator and not the speaker you're working on? Because sometimes you might be asked to do that. Well, there's 2 ways. One of them is to go home, and here's another navigation trick. Clicking on this bar doesn't do anything. You have to hover over it and click on the little button here. And so there's 2 ways to get to this. And it tries to give you a tour, which is fine sometimes. You can click on tutorials and resources here, or speech evaluations. Now this is more direct. This will take you just to a list of evaluation resources. You can see every project in Pathways, there's an evaluation resource, similar to the one I showed you for the icebreaker. So you can, as a bonus, you can also see the purpose statement for every single project by downloading those. The only word of caution is that opening one of those counts on your educational transcript as a space, so it just pushes your path down and it makes it harder to navigate. But functionally, it doesn't do anything. Tutorials and resources, if you go here, what you can do is you can get those evaluation resources, but you can get a whole bunch more tutorials. There's things like frequently asked questions, a glossary, the navigator, which is a great document that runs through all the aspects of the Toastmasters program, the meeting roles, the club officer roles, etc. So I recommend you check out the navigator at some point. Project descriptions, tutorials. And so yeah, you can see how to do things that are not just speech projects. Things like how to complete a level overview, which is something in Pathways. Accessing the mentor program. How to evaluate or launching a project. These are bonus tutorials that aren't part of any project, but if you want to know more about how to evaluate effectively or how to run projects effectively, there are probably resources in here for that too. So I encourage you to take a look through this when you get a chance. And the other thing I will cover quickly, because I think I've already gone through accessing projects, requesting level completions, accessing evaluations. How do you find members on your club? Because when you're on Pathways, you'll see I have this little picture of me I added here. Most of the time, people, it's just a silhouette. They haven't added a picture. But you have a profile, and you can search for other members' profiles and give them feedback. So in addition to the written evaluations you do in the meeting, you can also give feedback to people over Basecamp. So here's a little trick I found. If you don't want to search for the person by name because you haven't memorized the name of every single person in your club, you can type the name of the club here. So if I type Oshawa, which is the name of one of my clubs, and press enter, all the names show up associated with it. And you can get a list of members, including 1 out of the 5 who's gotten a picture. And you can actually show more, because I'm pretty sure there's more people here. Yeah, there's, pretty much everyone in the club. This is great. So you can look at, no one else has a picture. So we'll look at Peter. He hasn't actually filled in that much. He's been a Toastmaster since 2011, which is pretty impressive. And you go, and you want to give him feedback, which I've already done. You just click on feedback. You can share your feedback. You can say, I said great picture. You can say great speech last meeting, or great table topics, or anything else. And you can give a badge. So if you click here, you can see the badges that are available. I thought there were 4 before, but there's 5 now. Collaborated, courageous, exceptional, innovative, and inspirational. So you can click that and share your feedback. I said he was courageous for having a profile picture when nobody else did. I think his probably looks better than mine. But I can change that. Since I said I have some good pictures from my trip to Italy, I think I can fix that now. And you can go back. You can also change your own profile. If you go to click on your picture there, there's me. I've actually put in a member since 2015. You can fill out roles you've done, and you can do that. There's feedback requests. So there's nothing there, but you can see other people who've done that. About me. Okay, I was trying to see how you can change that. You can click edit here if you want to put a little bit about yourself. And if you want to change some things, you can click my account. Now, you can do a bit more here than you might think. You might think some of it's on your profile, but this is actually how you access it. And you can enter in when you last did a role, so that's how that shows up, and your name. And so that's how you change your profile. And again, you can click to enlarge. It's a very large picture of me. And that's how you do that. And now here's a special one just for Alfredo, because he's the VP of Education. And also the president and the secretary can do this as well as backups. Before I get to that, one more thing. You can access your education transcript through transcript, and your e-portfolio here, which is how you upload documents. One of the things Pathways was advertised to do is you can upload your speech evaluations. It's not required, but it is in many ways better than just keeping sheets of paper on your desk or in a file folder somewhere. Since it's in one place, it's easy to find. So you click on documents. It's grouped by level. I've only bothered to do one so far. As you can see, I've done level 1 and I've only uploaded 1 evaluation. So you can see for yourself it's not mandatory. But if I do want to find my icebreaker evaluation, now it's here. And also in your e-portfolio, you can see the badges you've gotten. I've only gotten the automatic ones for achieving level 1 and starting level 1. But if somebody wants to award me a badge later for something that's not automatic, feel free. Now you've seen how to do it. And, the last thing I was going to cover was if you are a Basecamp manager, which is by default, it can only be the VP Education, the president, or the secretary. And what you would do is you log in as a Basecamp manager, and that means you're responsible for approving those level completion requests